He said, "Hey, Marquette, why do you think that a Dr. Umar is allowed to exist?" I said, "Oh, isn't it obvious? He's ineffective, but he is a placeholder that keeps others out of the way." I'll give you an example. The US government hated Martin Luther King. And we know because the FBI has a lot of files on how they tried to take him down. They hated Malcolm X even more. And Malcolm X talked about self-defense, right? So if you got one guy talking about self-defense and you got another guy talking about kumbaya, you don't like either of them as a United States government because you're trying to keep the blacks as second-class citizens. So what you do is you pick the lesser of two evils. And so they picked Martin Luther King because he's less effective. They completely made the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the one who taught Malcolm X, they made him invisible. Shout out to my good friend in Saudi who dropped some ism on me. And he posed a meaningful question. He said, "Marquette, do you think that Malcolm X was so clever, which is why he was out front, or did he just have the right look, the right aesthetic? Tall, slender, fair skinned, good looking, statuesque. He was able to spread the message, though it was not the message that came from his own mind. He didn't write his own speeches. He was not so clever. He just had the look, and the Nation of Islam and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad were clever enough to put him out there to spread that message." So that makes perfect sense. He says, "Yeah, I've heard Malcolm speaking in interviews, and once he starts going off the cuff, off script, after speaking his prepared remarks, not very insightful, not very impressive." I said, "Oh, that's very interesting." So let me round that back to what I was putting forward to you all. You need to understand the functions of an FBI, of a CIA. Yes, these are intelligence agencies. They're supposed to gather information, intelligence. They're also supposed to neutralize threats before the threat rises up. The best way is to catch the threat in its infancy. Make sure that it never comes to fruition. And when you look at certain persons, like say a Dr. Umar Johnson or others, you keep them in position and you keep them in popularity so that they fill the vacuum and the void. Because if they were to be removed, you might get someone in there that's talking something more serious, someone that's a better organizer, someone who's more honest, someone who's a better business person, someone who's a better speaker, someone who's more impactful, someone who can get the job done. So instead, keep the goofball who takes 15 years to build one school. Keep the goofball who's fleeced, in my estimation, no less than $2.5 million from the American blacks. Keep the goofball in there who's lying and stealing, and now he's talking about doing a pop the balloon show, the conscious version. Keep him in there, because you and I both know Dr. Umar getting all these donations via PayPal, via Cash App, and other means. We know that he doesn't have proper accounting. We know that he's definitely engaging in tax evasion. We know that his 501c3 is probably not being properly managed and documented, and maintaining the standards that government requires of such organizations. We know that money's not being accounted for. Dr. Umar has he doesn't suggest to anyone that he has any proper business acumen, management skills, background in finance, or a strong team with him. So why has the IRS not descended upon him? Why has he not been investigated formally by the FBI? Because he's a part of the FBI. He's a part of their structure. Yes, he's a part of their structure. He is a double agent. He is your enemy. And you might say, "Marquette, say it ain't so." I wish I could say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. I will not go. Turn the lights on. Carry me home. Na, 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 na. I wish I could say it ain't so. But I'll tell you why I must say this. If he was effective, he would have been deleted and marginalized. There's no way in hell you take 15 years to build a school. There's no way in hell people send you millions of dollars and then there's nothing to show and the government doesn't investigate you. This is something the government would investigate, unless he's one of their guys. And what can I compare this to? This is like a Sammy the Bull Gravano kind of situation. Sammy the Bull was a part of the Italian mafia. He's a part of the mob. Well, he was also working for the government. Serial killer, still on government payroll to this day, protected by the government. He's like a Whitey Bulger. You guys know Whitey Bulger. Yeah, Boston crime figure. He was going on committing all these crimes, killing people. People trying to figure out, like, why is he not in jail? He's plugged in with the FBI. That's why. He's an inside man. Same thing with Dr. Umar. Ask yourself, how threatening is a school for Black people? It's not threatening at all. There's no revolution there. There's no revolutionary ideology. And furthermore, he's not able to transcend the Blacks. He has only appealed to the Blacks, who are a minority, about 10% of the population, if we're being accurate. They want to claim 12%, 13%. That's not the case. You know, if you want to count the actual immigrants that are here, then you count people who are actually Black, you're looking at 10%. And within that 10%, if you slice up the data, you'll see that Blacks have low educational attainment, high levels of poverty. These are an ineffective people. Any real revolutionary within the context of the United States and this melting pot, you would have to have one who can transcend the color line. If they cannot transcend the color line, speak the Queen's English, have mass appeal and ideology, then they don't matter. So this guy is not a tool of revolution for the Black American. He is a tool of numbness. He is a tool of slumber. He is a tool of making them docile. He is a tool of making them think they're making progress when they're standing in the same place. How are you not standing in the same place when the brother been collecting donations for 15 years and ain't no school? You're standing in the same place. Come on now. So that's what they do. They put in a puppet. They do this with governments as well. They put in a puppet and they let that puppet be there. And they use that puppet to extract from the people or keep the people sleeping. That's what they do. Come on now. Yeah. See, here's the thing. Dr. Umar is no Elijah Muhammad. And a lot of you guys haven't heard the name of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that's because he was so effective and he was so good at what he was doing. They had a paramilitary organization called the Fruit of Islam, which is to say the men who were trained and militant. What's Dr. Umar's military wing called? What are the men who follow Dr. Umar called? There aren't any. They're not organized. That's why he's not a threat. He's a jokester. And that's why he will continue to exist and he will not be audited and the IRS won't descend upon him and the FBI won't investigate him. He's a tool. Simple and plain. And then you start seeing him talking about becoming an entertainer. Just imagine Martin Luther King talking about doing a pop the balloon show. I mean, it's ludicrous, really. But you guys are dumb enough to follow this. And so you suffer what you suffer. Anytime you observe a leader, he's merely a reflection of the people. That's it. That's why the Germans can not claim that they didn't know what was going on. You guys put the NSDAP in power. You guys put the Nazis in power. It didn't happen on accident. He's a reflection of you guys. I don't want to hear these pleads of innocence. It's ludicrous. Come on now. Magnaj IS, he writes, the battle you are engaged in is highly perilous. I hope you're navigating these streets real dangerous. Also, do you believe there's a deliberate effort to diminish your influence? There is no doubt about it. There's no doubt. We know that something is not right in this time that we are living in when we don't respect any of the historical places of meaning, you see. We don't respect the church. We're suspicious of the government. We don't give adequate respect to our educational institutions. We allow anyone to have a platform. There is no such thing as legitimacy or authenticity. The idea of fake it till you make it, which means lie. Yeah, did you guys forget about that? Fake it till you make it means lie. So we're allowing those who are liars to win. And we don't realize that in doing so, we hurt ourselves as a society, as individuals.